Hello, welcome back to ACTV. I'm Alec Cizak, and I'm joined today by Tara, and we're going to talk about something very special. But first, Tara, why don't you tell my audience who you are and what it is you do?
Sure. It's great to be here. I appreciate you asking me to. My name is Tara. The full last name is actually Scherner de la Fuente, but I get on a first name basis with people real quickly because of that last name. So I live in Central Illinois. I moved here just about a year ago from Portland, Oregon. I've spent most of my life on the West Coast, but for reasons I hope we get a chance to talk about, I moved here to Illinois. And let's see, I work professionally as a software engineer, but I went to school for writing. I got a BFA from Emerson College in Boston in writing, literature, and publishing. It's been a little while now. And then I also got a master's in English and then pursued a PhD in English at the University of Cincinnati. Didn't finish the PhD there, but I ended up teaching composition and was actually an assistant dean for a PhD in humanities program at Union Institute University. And then I went completely in a different direction and ended up being a software engineer. And then once I kind of felt comfortable doing that professionally, I got back to my writing, and now I've been writing pretty seriously for the last few years, studying. I've been really lucky to study with some great folks for probably about a year or two with Chuck Palahniuk and Chelsea Kane. And then Chelsea Kane has continued to be my writing coach and has introduced me to a lot of great writers, including yourself. So yeah, I've been real lucky, and I've carved out some writing time in my life and been able to really get back into that. And also recently did a writing workshop with Robert Dugoni. So I've been just really lucky to meet and work with some really great writers on my writing.
Oh, fantastic. What kind of writing do you do, if you don't mind my asking?
Of course not. I primarily write fiction, and I suppose I'm leaning towards the mystery thriller line, mostly because that's what I like to read. I had to do a whole lot of reading, as you can imagine, in my graduate programs, but and I grew to love what a lot of people think of as literary fiction, and I do really appreciate so much that happens in there. But admittedly, when I want to read a book, I'm looking at Lee Child, C.J. Box, and just a bunch of writers. Craig Johnson, love Craig Johnson. And so that's the kind of reading I tend to go for. So I thought I should really be writing the kind of things that I like to read. But hopefully I'm bringing a little bit of different characterizations to that. And occasionally I'll delve into poetry, but I'm not a poet by any means. Sometimes that's just what calls you.
Sure. Well, I had a poetry professor tell me you should, no matter what writing you do, you should always write poetry regardless, because it helps. Writing poetry helps with all other forms of writing, whereas other forms of writing don't necessarily help you with your poetry writing. It's a very bizarre thing. So, do you have something else to say?
No, I was just gonna say that I think when I'm writing, if I'm stuck, I try to think, how would a poet write this particular thing? If the line isn't quite working or something like that, because poets put so much meaning into each word. And so sometimes I'll kind of attack my writing that way. It's not a thing I'm doing constantly, but sometimes just to get myself out of that, I'm trying to write too writerly. I'll go and try to write a little poetic.
That's a good idea. You did say something I found interesting, that you did not finish your PhD in English. And I just find it interesting because I have two good friends that I went to Minnesota State in Mankato with. We got MFAs,
Mhm.
which is I find personally to have been profoundly useless. But they both went on to PhD programs in English, and both of them quit as well. So it's curious that I keep meeting unfinished PhD
I, I
candidates.
think I think a lot of people end up not finishing, and I'm sure many people think of that as a failure of some sort. I don't. I've been on a really interesting ride. This life has been pretty interesting so far. It continues to be, and that was just one of the roads I took.
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's no shame in not finishing a PhD. It's I couldn't even get into a program, so so I certainly wouldn't be able to cast a judgment on anybody. But why don't we move on to the issue at hand here?
Yeah.
And I really don't want to reveal too much. So we're here today to talk about a goat. And if you could, please start from the inception of this project to where it stands literally today.
All right. I think the inception we have to go back in time a little bit. First of all, I am an avid road trip sort of a gal. In addition to the non-contiguous states, I've been to all 50 states plus DC, and I try to do most of it on the road, and I try to do most of that on back roads. I love back roads, and I really fell in love with Route 66, as many people who love to drive road trips do. So there's that aspect. And then when I lived in Portland, Oregon, I was driving down a street I drove down all the time. And one day I happened to notice, I was driving and I thought, was that a horse? And it turns out I had driven past a yard where there was a full size, it turns out to be a mule, but a full size mule, just pure white, kind of a statue in the yard with its head kind of coming over the gate. And it was just there. And it was very charming. And then during the lockdown in 2020, during the pandemic, I didn't go very many places, and I certainly didn't go anywhere very often. But on the occasions that I had to go out, I would purposely drive by that mule, and just to see it. It became kind of the highlight of the pandemic for me, was to go drive by this mule. It made me happy. Most of the time it was just there, but sometimes the owner would dress it up in various costumes or something, and it just made me smile. It was just something to look forward to, and in a time where so many of us were isolated. And I thought, gosh, if I had a house, I was living in an apartment then, I would love to do something like that. And what would I do? Because, you can't just go get another mule. That's already been done. And I have a big fascination with goats. In fact, I used to run a Twitter user account. This is a sticker that I had for when I ran this goat user account. I'm a software engineer, and we use things called user stories. And it's kind of how you design a software program is the user story has a particular form. As a such and such, I want to do such and such so that I can have this result. And so that's a user story. And so I had, there was an account called Cat User Stories, and that somebody had on Twitter. And as a kind of a joke, and to see if we could top how many people were on Cat User Stories, some people at a company I was working with started Goat User Stories, because I had such a thing that I liked goats, and I made goat puns and that kind of thing. So we just decided to start Goat User Stories. We had pictures of goats, and anyway, that's basically I have a long history of goat connections. And so I thought I would have a goat. Well, then I thought, a full-size mule, you see that out of the corners of your eye as you're going by. You wouldn't see a goat, even a full-size goat. And I thought, well, if I got a goat, it would have to be a large goat, would have to be my thing. And so my life, percolates, in your mind for a while. And eventually, at some point, I thought of the pun from get your kicks on Route 66. I thought of goat your kicks on Route 66. And from that moment on, my destiny was decided. And I thought, that's it. I've got to have that yard goat. It's a big one, and it's got to be on Route 66. And then I can have like a sign or a mural or something that says goat your kicks on Route 66. And that'll just be another one of the great things along the roadside of Route 66 that just makes people smile. Folks like to, stop at all these different things on Route 66 and take pictures and, share them with folks. And I just thought, well, that would bring joy. You would see this goat, and just like that yard mule brought me joy, I would bring joy to others. And so that was a long time ago now. That was probably about maybe 8 or 9 years ago that I first kind of put that all together. And I was living in Oregon, and I stayed there for a number of years. I had family in the area, and God bless them. They passed on. My family has my mom's. I had 2 mothers, and they both passed on, and that sort of freed me up to move to wherever I wanted to move. And all this time, I have been scouring Zillow.com, Realtor.com, all the .coms with the houses on them, and you can't just look up Route 66 because all the streets have different names and it's all sort of patched together out there. So I would just literally scroll with my mouse back and forth across these websites, looking at houses, finding just the right ones. And so that brings us up to the present. And I found this property in which I'm sitting just a couple of years ago. And I bought it from Oregon. I will say I came out for the closing, but we were in closing time by the time I showed up here. My real estate agent did a video tour with me through the house. But the main thing is I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at Route 66 out my window, and it's right there. The property is on the line, and it had this large side yard, which is actually kind of behind me, and a fence was already installed, kind of a black metal fence, and very large garage or outbuilding right behind this side yard. So again, bringing us back to the present, this past December, after a lot of work with some graphic designers and people who make large fiberglass things, a goat was trailered into town, and I got some folks together. We all unloaded it. I had a concrete pad installed in the yard for it, and I've got a 10-foot goat out in my side yard. And this upcoming summer, a friend of mine is coming to, they're a graphic designer and have done murals before. They're coming out to do a mural for me. And they've been in the process of designing it and working on it. And it'll say, "Goat your kicks" on Route 66 behind this goat, who we've named Colby. The town is known for coal, the coal industry. And I wanted kind of just a gender neutral name, because I want kids, kids are going to love the goat most. And that has proven to be true. And I didn't want any of them to refer to my goat as he or she and have somebody tell them they were wrong. So I chose a gender neutral name and of Colby, and I spell it Coal, just to kind of play with the history of the town. So basically, I've made a pun come to life, very expensive pun, and I made a dream come true, a many years dream come true, and I'm pretty happy about it. I feel like now that I've gotten a 10-foot goat in my yard and I'm on Route 66, maybe now I can write a novel that people will want to read too. I'll finish that novel. So anything's possible.
I think at some point you'll be able to write this story, make a book out of this story. You said that you said it's been popular with kids, so people are stopping by to look at the goat.
Yeah, yeah. I've been pretty happy at, I can see right out there, and so I'll see people sometimes will park, and there's a empty parking lot across the way, and I'll see people park, and I never know if they're looking at the building that's for sale over there or they're checking out my goat. But I'm always watching to see if they're checking out the goat. That makes me real happy to see it when they do. And I've have friends in town who one of them recorded something that she sent it to me, and she said, "This is what I hear every time I drive past your house," and it's her little girl going, "Hi, Colby," and then her little girl going, "Bye, Colby." And I think that's wonderful. I've seen a bunch of several different groups of people bringing their kids across the street to take pictures of it, and so that just makes me real happy.
Sure. And when I first, or around the time that I first learned about this, you were suggesting that you might have some problems with slightly older kids, as in teenagers.
Yes.
And
Yes.
can you tell us what you did to prepare for them?
Well, in addition to choosing a gender neutral name for the goat has no indicators like an udder or anything else that might determine its gender. And then I thought small town, because it did end up being a small town that I moved to. We got 3,500 people here. I thought, teenagers get bored in small towns, and they might check out my goat and go behind the goat, maybe take some pictures and maybe make some inappropriate. Oops, I got some feedback there. Sorry about that. I thought they might make some inappropriate pictures of things they might do to my goat, especially near its back end. And so when I had the folks designing the statue, one of the first things I told them is I don't want a goat butt back there. We've got a Route 66 sign back there now. So it's kind of an Easter egg, if you will. If someone was to go around the back of the goat, they would not find any sort of hole. They would find a Route 66 sign, and it's right there where you would have expected to see something inappropriate, but nope, it's a sign. So in fact, I didn't even plan this, but this is my mug today, and so it's a Route 66 shield. We chose the blue and red one, actually, but it's on the back of the goat, and so all of your viewers know about it, but the teenagers won't until they go back there, and hopefully they'll, decide not to do anything inappropriate with my goat.
And so far, there hasn't been any trouble like that, any vandalism or anything.
So far, there hasn't been. So, it could happen, I suppose. And people are always wanting to decorate it for holidays. I think I'm going to try to mostly decorate the fence, but hopefully there won't be much vandalism or any vandalism. I do have a camera out there and camera on various parts of my house, but I hope it never catches anything other than people being happy to see the goat.
Sure. And this is really, you kind of touched on it. This is really a bigger tradition on Route 66. How much do you know about this? So seems to be, as far as I can tell, a kind of a particularly American phenomena, that we have this road that is just filled with oddities and whatnot.
Yeah, it does seem to be particularly American. I mean, there are certainly oddities and different things to go see in other parts of the world, but the Route 66 gets a ton of foreign visitors, people from outside the United States, and they just love it and find it really great. There's a lot of things that Route 66 fans call giants, and those are those, incredibly tall and large statues. Like there's a lot of lumbermen and folk Michelin men sort of things out there. There's a giant whale. There's lots of different things, these giants that you can go see. And so I'm hoping that the goat sort of falls in with that category. But yeah, I think that's part of that Americana and that American road trip that folks really just kind of appreciate and love. And I think there are so many people who really still love Route 66 that there's, a lot of volunteer organizations around keeping it up to date, what is available, preserving what they can of it, a lot of historic Route 66 signs and paint to put the shields right on the highway. There's a lot of different alignments of it, not just a lot of people really looking out for it. And next year, 2026, is the centennial of of Route 66 when it started. So 1926 to 2026. So I got here at just the right time, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, you talk about the how some of it is missing now. Some of Route 66 is missing. I know this because several times I've driven back and forth between my home state of Indiana and California where I live, and every now and then I try to catch a little bit of 66, but I notice you can catch just little chunks of it. What recommendations would you have for anyone looking to get a good, because like you said, you're in Illinois, and unless you're familiar with the song, Get Your Kicks on 66, some people may not know that it goes that far north because you mostly see the signs in the Southwest. What kind of recommendations would you have for a family or just somebody just looking to unearth 66 at this point? What recommendations would you have?
Well, fortunately, I will say there are some Facebook groups that can be real helpful, and most of them will point to particular guidebooks for Route 66. I think there's one called the Easy Guide, spelled just with the letters, Easy Guide to Route 66. I think that's the best one. It's regularly updated. It provides a lot of information. First of all, it's a flip book, so you can kind of flip and you're just dealing with this one strip that you're on of Route 66, and it will talk about what is on there that's interesting to see, like the giants and just some classic buildings and signage and all kinds of different aspects of Route 66. But it's also really just tailored to if you want to stay as close as you can onto the authentic Route 66. It will tell you, you're going to be on a frontage road, for example, and you need to take a left under the freeway here and then be on that frontage road. And then you'll take a right back to the other side of a highway, maybe. Here, right where I am, I think it's kind of cool. We actually have two main alignments of Route 66. And an alignment really means I'm on one of the first alignments here, which was Route 66 from 1926 to 1930. And then a little bit to the east here is another alignment from 1930 to, I'm not sure what their end year would be considered, but it's the second one. It sort of moved east at one point. And Route 66 is really so many different streets kind of put together at this point because the alignment of it did change. It's not like our major highway systems now, which are pretty set once it's an interstate. So there's that Easy Guide book is very good at saying, here's the 1926 to 30 alignment that you can take from Springfield to St. Louis, or you could take the 1930 to such and such alignment, and it'll show you all the different things you can see on either route, and also encourage people to take both. Even the two alignments that we have, there are little side alignments from where you can get on the original pavement, which if you're a real Route 66 nerd, it's pretty exciting to get on the original pavement. And we have different ways of doing that here. There's a little shot of it that's probably about 3 city blocks worth of old 66 that I can still drive down pretty close by outside of town. And I like to do that occasionally. Get my Hyundai wheels right on there.
Um, are the teepees still there? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The hotel with the teepees.
Yeah, I think there are still two of those left. I think there's one maybe in Holbrook, Arizona, if I'm not mistaken, and I've stayed at one in California, I believe. So I think those two are still there. And you know, what I said about volunteers and organizations, there's also a lot of folks who want to bring back some of the things that have kind of fallen into disrepair. So I hear regularly about somebody who is putting money into redoing, say, a motor court motel or something like that. And that's pretty great to know that people are still doing that and keeping up on it.
So you talk about these guidebooks, and I assume that most of them list all the attractions. So I'm just wondering, when will your goat be included in these guidebooks?
Well, it's a good question. I've been having what I call think of as a soft opening. Like I feel like it won't really be the full thing until I get the mural done. I do have a little like one of those free little library stands that I just got, and we're still sort of getting out of winter here in central Illinois. So once we're officially really solidly in spring, I'll put that out. And I've gotten a stamp that says I kind of redid these very same goat stickers. I redid them to say "Goat Your Kicks" on Route 66, and I've got an Instagram account or whatever. I don't really care about that stuff, but people like to post their things, so they may as well hashtag it. So I've got some made up, and I've actually got to order a bunch of them. I've got a stamp because there are people who do the road and they kind of have passports and journals and things. So and I'll probably put some other things out there. Just, maybe I'll get some pins that say "Goat Your Kicks" on them or something like that. Just little things for people to take as mementos. But so I did actually get "Goat Your Kicks" onto Google Maps, so you could find that by looking for it. I just thought my street address is technically not on Route 66. I didn't make that a requirement of my property search, but most of it is on Route 66. So I made kind of a different address that would get people right to it and on the route, so they can find it in the map. And there are some folks who well, here, I have already told some of the Facebook groups about on Route 66 about the attraction, but I haven't officially asked for it to be, on any kind of in a book or anything else. I'm kind of hoping it gets discovered once, that real aficionados of it, especially during 2026, will see it, or hopefully even before 2026, they will see it and kind of add it to the list of things. And then there's a magazine, Route 66. I'm hoping, they might spot it and, run out of other things to talk about, and maybe they'll come visit my goat. So part of me hopes that it is kind of naturally discovered by guidebooks and things like that. And the other part of me really just wants it in there right now. But I'm hoping word will spread. I did join there's a Route 66 of Illinois museum and kind of group here, and I did join it. So I might, mention my goat maybe the next time I'm over at the museum. And but no, I'm really hoping people discover it and that it gets kind of in there naturally. I feel kind of, I don't know, weird about advertising it myself, but I kind of hope fans will share it if they think it's worth noting. I hope they do.
Sort of self-publishing versus getting published by the New York 5, whatever.
A little bit, I mean, yeah, so I've done some level of self-publishing and maybe there's some level of self-promotion, but yeah, you kind of want, I don't know, maybe you still kind of want Penguin to come by and Random House suddenly knows about your stuff. So yeah, that would be nice.
Well, people know me. No, I approve of all of it. And any way you have to get your work out there, I think you should. Okay, well, this has been a fascinating discussion, and I hope that people stop by and see your goat, and I
I
hope the
do
goat
too.
becomes famous, and I hope that Route 66 is revitalized, right?
Yeah,
It's such a, to me, just such it's an American thing. People could debate America this way, that, whatever, but Route
yeah,
66, it's to me, it's just innocent Americana. So
yeah. I think we can all come together on Route 66. So,
yes, this should be the next presidential platform.
well,
Unite
maybe they'll
on six.
stop by.
What's that?
Maybe they'll stop by.
Yes, right. Maybe yes, have a presidential debate right in front of the goat.
Yeah, well, the goat's ready.
Okay. All right, Tara. Well, thanks for talking to us today,
Yeah.
and good luck with the goat.
All right. Thanks so much. Take care.